for the regional markets, ESC, COMESA, and EU. To increase the value of priority products exported to the selected unilateral preferential markets, US, India, and China, by an average of 40% annually over the next 5 years. To increase value addition from 8.2% by 16% by 2030. To increase employment opportunities in the industrial sector from 7% to 20%. We are confident that we will become a middle-income economy once we fulfill these strategies. I wish to not lay people into, but I rest my case. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Honorable Amelia Chambade. I thought that hand clap was not sufficient for the... Thank you very much. For any comments, any questions, any proposals, you are going to keep them until plenary. Now, I'll call upon education. I'll be picking at random. The Minister of Education, State for Education, Honorable Miingo, you are going to tell us about the skilling program and how far you have gone in implementing this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. I've been asked to explain how the Ministry of Education and Sports is driving the skilling agenda to address the quality of human resource challenges. But of course, before I explain, I must say I carried very warm greetings to you all from Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, the Minister of Education and Sports. Thank you, thank you. Skills development remains high on the agenda to address the human resource challenge, and quite a number of strategies have been developed by my ministry. There are quite many, but in the interest of time, I would like to share with you a few. One is reviewing the curriculum of this country. We are changing almost everything that is going to take place in our education system. What is going to be taught, how it's going to be taught, so that the whole idea, and almost in every aspect. Here we are trying to emphasize the vocationalization of education from primary, secondary, up to the end of the ladder. The emphasis here is going to be on skills acquisition, so that at every stage, should one decide to get out of the education system, he will be equipped with the badly needed employable skills. For example, next year in February, when some of you will be starting to look for votes, first we shall be busy rolling out the new lower secondary school curriculum. This is going to be a balance between theory, practical, but the whole idea behind is to impart the employable skills, which will enable our children to either create jobs for themselves or fit into the available, grab the available jobs. We have also we have developed a TVET policy, which of course was passed by Cabinet, and this will also enable us address most of the gaps that existed in skills development subsector, such as the removal of the overlaps in the Act. There are quite many in the BTVET and Tertiary Institutions Act. The TVET policy, which has been developed, is employer-led. What does that mean? That instead of us sitting in the offices in the ministry to decide on what type of curriculum is going to happen, now we are sitting with the employer, who know very well what they want, and they are giving us direction. Even when it comes to implementing it, we are moving together, even the teaching, even the assessment, so that when our product come out, is marketable, can easily be absorbed, so that policy will enable us to set up TVET Council, which will be responsible for coordination and management of skills development in the country. The council will be private sector led, and this will enable us to develop human resource which is relevant to the competitive world of work. Government is also in partnership with international institutions to develop technical colleges into centers of excellence. Here we are focusing mainly on oil and gas, manufacturing, and construction. These centers are being upgraded. They have been equipped. Instructors and lecturers are being upgraded. Some have even been internationally accredited. And most importantly, they are all undergoing international accreditation. So far, over 55 of our staff have been internationally accredited. And this means that our products, when they go out in the market, they will be able to compete internationally with even those from Europe. The government of Uganda, of course, has also set to improve access to relevant skills through provision of 400 scholarship bursaries to learners in the Albertine region. We are trying to equip them with the necessary skills in oil and gas. We are continuing to equip and expand the existing technical institutions to enhance their capacity to absorb more trainees. This provision of additional facilities is being supported through projects which are either government funded or donor funded. I have quite a number of examples, but you already know that we are expanding seven institutions under the Support to Skilling Uganda project, which includes UTC Chema, that one is being expanded, Kasese Youth Project in Kasese, St. Joseph Vilika, St. Simon Peter in Hoima, Millennium Business School in Hoima, Nakapiripiri Technical Institute is also being expanded, St. Daniel Komboni in Moroto. We have also the establishment of 6 new technical institutes funded by government of Uganda. Will include the money we are getting next year. Elia Kategaya Technical Institute in Tungamo, Professor Dan Nabuderes in Slonko, Maumbe Mukwana Technical Institute, Muchui Technical Institute in Gulu, Kabong Technical Institute in Kabong, Kauli Zakasada Technical Institute in Bujiri. Under the Albertine project, we are also set to establish an agro-processing institution in Inorwa. Under another project, government is set to expand 9 technical institutions, which include Bahimba, Nakasongola, Kiraka, Lokopio Hills, Namutumba, Nawanyago, Agolai, and Rwengo. Under IDB Phase 2, government will expand 9 technical institutions. One is Kitovu, Lutunku, Kavale, Birembo, Narwile, Nkoko, Munakuru, Moyo, and Moroto. Something very important also that is happening, of course, when we get accredited with international reputable institutions, that also means our institutions are working together. They are sharing stuff, they are sharing experiences, curriculum is developed together. So what you will soon be seeing is that these are people who will be able to grab jobs all over the country. The government has also improved on the funding for training of trainers, for more materials, scholastic materials, and also for retooling of our lecturers. We have been able, as Uganda, to participate in world competitions, skills competitions. There is an advantage in this, a very big advantage. You have been called upon to participate. Before you participate, your staff is trained. And this is a very big plus on the preparation of our staff. You know, our staff, many of them had been trained according to the other system, which was not responsive to the market demands. So there will be a lot of training going on. As I end, we have some challenges though. There are not very many, but I think I will share some with you. One is the declining share of the national cake. When you look at the figures, Honorable Kasaija normally reads, for the past four years, we have been on a decline. At one time, we were 14%, 13%. As I talk now, it's 10%. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You pray for me. But of course, as a result, this has resulted into inadequate training materials. You know, for me, even water and electricity is an instructional material. Even electricity. Some of my institutions are not connected to the national grid, and yet they don't even have generators because they cannot afford sometimes. When I say pray, I really mean it. Even understaffing is another. Many of these institutions have not been able to attract the number of staff they need. And even the training of some of those that are there has some question mark. You know very well how sometimes we even advertise and they fail to attract the numbers we need just because out there in the field they are paid much more than what we can afford to pay. So when I say that worries me, the declining share of the national, I hope you understand. Inadequate funding for skills development is one challenge, but the worst and the terrible challenge I have is the attitude towards skills development. That is something we need to work together. We have talked, but see, people think that the way to go is climb the ladder and become a professor, an academician. People look down, have a very negative attitude towards vocational training, vocational education. I thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Myunga, and we have heard your prayer. Our people say that when you live near the deck, you do not wash your hands with saliva. And since the economic deck is right here, your plea has been heard. And now it is my pleasure to call upon the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Vincent Bamuranga Chimpija, to make his presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, the Honorable Members of Parliament, the RDCs, the chairpersons of districts, and all the district teams, and the very important people who are invited here, ladies and gentlemen. My question was, what support mechanisms have been put in place for small and medium scale farms to improve their productivity and the quality to be able to access the export market? I just want to thank you, Madam Chair, and the Honourable Minister of Finance for his earlier submission, showing his commitment to support agriculture this time. And I just want to assure him that the sector is ready to move with him to greater heights. If I get a chance, I will answer some of the queries he put forward. My ministry has embarked on the development of the new 5-year strategic plan focusing on agro-industrialization. The goal of agro-industrialization is to increase households' income, exports earnings, import substitution, and food security. The strategic interventions will be guided by the production systems that will embrace the nucleus farmer model, which will streamline ways in which government will empower progressive farmers in specific value chains to be the means of creating linkages between the central government, local governments, extension services, input dealers, input distribution systems, finance and insurance service providers, agricultural research, and other private sector value chain actors at both parish and sub-county levels. The nucleus farmer model is also meant to mobilize farmers into groups and higher level producer marketing associations and link the farmers to input dealers, traders, and financial services. So the agro-industrialization goal will be achieved through 5 specific objectives. The specific objectives cover all the segments of the value chains, including production, agro-processing, and value addition and markets. This answers the complaint that the development partners put in place, that we are emphasizing agro-industrialization and forgetting the production part. We are not. So the 5 are the following. A, strengthening production systems for sustainable production and productivity, and this will also include emphasis to improving access to quality inputs. B, improving agro-processing, value addition and storage. C, increasing agricultural product market competitiveness through improved quality and standards. 4, increasing access to agricultural finance and insurance, and strengthening the institutional, legal, policy, and planning, plus regulatory frameworks for improved service delivery. So to improve productivity, Madam Chair, and the quality of products, I start with productivity. The Ministry has undertaken the following: strengthening research and development, which has generated technologies with superior attributes to the existing yield advantages, pests and disease resistance, adaptation to drought-prone environments, and so on. In animal, productivity has been enhanced through genetic improvement by crossbreeding, artificial insemination, embryo transfers, and so on. 2, strengthening extension. Madam Chair, extension services have been strengthened, including recruitment of staff in all districts and some sub-counties to ensure that the generated technologies reach our smallholder farmers and farms. We have provided support in the form of motorcycles and vehicles to extension workers. We have reached 65% of coverage of the need, considering our earlier commitment, Honorable Minister of Finance, of one extension staff to 5,000 people. We now, unfortunately today, this morning, the Minister of Finance committed himself that he will provide funds for recruiting 100%, and I sincerely thank you very much for that commitment. The other one was provision of critical farm inputs, including seed, breeding, planting, and stocking materials. The Ministry has provided value addition equipment, as well, of course, including milk coolers through DDA, fruit processing plants, grain mills, and so on through, of course, NADS or WC. Number 4, we are undertaking controlling pests, vectors, and the diseases, including continued testing of various tick-resistant cleansing acaricides and local production of the relevant vaccines. Madam Chair and the honorable members, before January, we are likely to have some good news on our local vaccine that is being tested as I talk now. But of course, government has decided to buy a cleansing acaricide, and they will have passed 100 billion shillings to do this. Then after that, we are going to zone this country so that acaricides are used by farmers according to the zones. We have equipped NADEC, our National Agriculture Animal Disease Diagnostic Center, with ultra-modern machines to test all the diseases. We have our partners, Makerere University. They are now equipped up to date. MAIF has also funded the procurement of modern equipment for Uganda National Bureau of Standards since we work together. On animals again, we have by end of December, we have equipped 2 regional diagnostic centers to be able to our farmers to access testing facilities, testing their samples near them. One will be in Arua and another one will be in Mbarara. Then the next financial year, which we are planning, we'll add maybe 4 others. The buildings are in place, the machines will be procured and expected to be installed in January and February 2020, that is early next year. MAIF, on this one again, in the animal sector, is to be able to promote export promotion of our beef, is to embark on the recruitment of farmers who will partner with the government under a PPP arrangement to start serious breeding and multiplying quality breeds for other farmers. And this will be spearheaded by NAGWIC and Data Bank. We are also going to recruit farmers who are ready to join us to fatten cows for export. And this is starting with the next month. Promoting sustainable capture fisheries and aquaculture, including streamlining the roles of different fisheries enforcement agencies and the standards for fishing requirements. This has seen the once closed fish factories opened, and now new ones are being established due to the increased fish stocks. Madam Chair, under Water for Agriculture Production, the Ministry has had interventions, including working jointly with the Ministry of Water and the Environment. We are also constructing now irrigation schemes of Tochi, Wadelai, Ngenge, Mobuku 2, Doho 2, and Ruengaji with the Ministry of Water. We are also constructing valley tanks and dams, especially in the water-stricken districts in the Kato corridor. Honorable Chair and members, you should know that the irrigation policy was passed by Cabinet, and the water for irrigation is handled by the Ministry of Water and Environment and the Ministry of Agriculture and Industry and Fisheries jointly. The Ministry of Water and Environment handles the off-farm bulk water supply, then the Ministry of Agriculture handles the on-farm. So don't misunderstand this as duplication. The Ministry has completed construction of 50 small-scale irrigation demonstrations and the water harvesting sites in selected districts under the 9 ZADIs. Under mechanization, my ministry has provided mechanization equipment, including tractors, ox plows, draft animal power, hand tractors, threshers, haulers, and so on. You will appreciate that apart from the increasing productivity through the above-mentioned interventions, my ministry has undertaken value-addition interventions in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and the Cooperatives in key commodities. And of course, the Minister, Honorable Maria Chambade, has mentioned these. These include coffee, tea, dairy, beef, cotton, fish, fruits, and so on. Under quality improvement, Madam Chair, the Ministry of Agriculture and Industry and Fisheries developed a strategy to regulate agricultural inputs to mitigate the adulteration and the fake inputs on the market. And the implementation of this strategy led to the impounding of 32,425 kilograms, 10,000 liters of counterfeit fertilizers, 44 metric tons disguised as NPK fertilizer, and a can, 715.7 metric tons assorted cowpea seeds, all these faked. We are now trying to find ways of getting rid of them because it is not even easy. But the ministry is undertaking other strategic measures to counter this. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to intervene by getting in place farmer service centers to link with the nucleus farmers at parish and village levels. So we are going to jump those people who are now disturbing, who are faking the inputs. We are going to register the importers of inputs. We are going to register the producer, those who are producing them locally here. They are going to indicate the farm service centers which they will work with, and then we will be able to trace every farm input that is in the country. The ministry has intensified the inspection of seed stock at warehouses of all seed companies, starting with the origin of seed from research through the line of the seed, from the original seed, which we call breeder seed, through up to the time when the farmer gets the seed. We have also intensified capacity building of farmers and export farms, especially for horticulture products intended for export. Madam Chair and the honorable ministers and members here, we have put in place a whole commissioner, a whole department for inspection and certification. And we are equipping them and also beefing up the numbers and also facilitating them. They will be able to reach every corner of this country, including manning all the border points. We are fighting to make sure that we meet all the EU standards and the other export market requirements. It is true that China, Russia, the Emirates, other Asian countries, USA, EU have increased. Some have opened new doors, but others have even increased demand for our products. Therefore, we have to work very, very hard to make sure that we meet in terms of quality, standards, and even the volumes, and of course, the timeliness of supplies. We are recruiting skilled inspectors, and we are deploying them at critical exit and entry points. The ministry is undertaking refurbishment and equipping of analytical laboratories at Namalere, Kawanda for crop certification, certification of abattoirs, and hatcheries for animal exports. The ministry is working on the sanitary and the phytosanitary policy to guide the quality and the standards. And as I mentioned earlier, we are undertaking to introduce the farmer service supply centers to link with the nucleus farmers at parish and village levels so that our farmers are assured of quality products and inputs. I thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. You can come back and take your seat.
Thank you.
Even that clap, there was something missing. I almost gave you the red card, but because your presentation was so crucial and full of very, very important information, I let you be. Honorable Yoda, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, please join me in welcoming him to the podium.
Yeah, Madam Chair, honorable ministers, and all of you colleagues. Just for emphasis, I'm the Minister for Science, Technology and Innovation. Because it's a new ministry, people tend to confuse it with ICT. So I sometimes even meet colleagues say, how are you, Honorable Tumwebase? How is ICT? So I must say I'm Dr. Yoda Tumwesje, Member of Parliament, Shema Municipality, and the First Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Now, the question I'm trying to answer is Uganda aims at increasing productivity, inclusiveness, and well-being of her people through science, technology, transfer, and innovation. How can the Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation support value addition in production through technology transfer and innovation across the sectors? To interrogate this particular question, I looked at the NDP evaluation that was presented yesterday at the Prime Minister's office. I also looked at this budget strategy this morning and noted significant progress that has been made in the country. However, there are some areas that certainly can be improved by improving our STI ecosystem. First and foremost, it's very clear that by 1986, our population growth rate was 2.4%. It has now risen to 3.02% against the target of NDP of 2.9. Our population, when you go and check the most recent data, is estimated at 44 million. It will be 63.8 million by 2030, and by 2050 we shall overtake Kenya. We shall be at 105.7, Kenya will be about 99.5, assuming the activity remains as projected. Now, all these people have to feed breakfast, lunch, and supper. All these people have got to put on clothes, the basics. They have got to have decent housing, feeding, housing, clothing, let alone health and education, for them to have well-being. And therefore, we shall have to use science and technology to ensure we achieve all these. Associated with this also is the youth bulge, where 60% of the population is below the age of 18, and over 600,000 people ideally are supposed to enter the job market every year. The other challenge that was also noted from NDP2 yesterday, and I think also today, is poverty levels that have increased from 19.7% in 2013 to about 21.4% by 17-18, versus a target of 14.2. Certainly science and technology can be called upon to generate wealth and jobs, as I will illustrate later. The GDP per capita, which was 647 in 2010, is risen to 825 today, against a target of 1039, meaning we shall not be able to achieve the middle income status by next year. But certainly, with a lot of work in the science area, we can at least reach our target of being a developed country by 2040. When you look at this one, employment population ratio, because of course there's a huge population, so when you compare employment, it was 69.1 in 1986, but has declined to 56.8. Employment population ratio. My colleague was talking about share of industry as total GDP. I don't have to emphasize that. I think these figures were taken just before the recent increase in factories. But by 17-18, this had also reduced to about 19.9%. Likewise, the manufactured exports as a percentage of total exports, which was 14.5% in 2013, went down 12.3% in 17-18. And with technology transfer, appropriate resources, certainly this can be increased. Of note is labor productivity. In agriculture, this declined from 581 to 70, against a target of 978. Labor productivity in industry declined from 5,106 to almost half, 2,763 in 17-18, instead of going up to 7,871. For services, there was a slight decline, not so much. Against all this, there is a big challenge, but which I'm sure is going to be handled, is already being handled. That's expenditure on innovation, research, and development, measured as enshrined in the NDP document, but by what we call research intensity, which is basically how much you spend on research and innovation compared to your GDP. At the beginning of NDP2, the aim was to increase from 0.5% to 1%, but instead this declined to 0.3%. In comparison, Kenya has went up to 0.9%, and Israel has a rate of about 5%. Basically, in Israel, they add value to anything. If you go to these kibbutz, everything they handle, they add value. They do research, simple research, because of this cost. But we have confidence that once we inject in about 500 billion pledged by 2021, this figure will go up, and so will be our innovation index. The science and technology ecosystem and sector, by and large, was established to enhance integration of STI into the national development process, aimed at the advancement of socio-economic growth and transformation in the country. My ministry is implementing a whole of government and multi-sector approach towards the integration and building of a robust national science, technology, and innovation enterprise You'll find science cuts across all the sectors. Science is everywhere. So our role is just to coordinate this system and make sure we integrate the practice of science in the various development processes. And this also enshrined in the NDP2 outgoing sector objectives, which was one, to enhance integration of STI into the development process, increase transfer and adaptation of technologies, enhance research and development in Uganda, and improve science and technology innovation legal and regulatory framework. What has been the progress so far? The ministry was created in June 2016 when the budget had already been concluded, so we didn't have a budget for that year by and large. But we went into the budget full swing in 17-18, and then 18-19, there we had reduction. Actually, we didn't have any innovation funding, and again in 19-20, there is some increase, at least in the allocation. But the interventions that we have been able to carry out include: one, strengthening the legal, regulatory, and policy framework towards securing a well-structured and coordinated national science technology innovation ecosystem. We worked with USAID and, of course, government to develop the STI sector strategic plan of 2019-2025. And this has now, by and large, been approved by NPA. We also worked with United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to review the science and technology innovation policy. We have also been championing the genetic engineering regulatory bill, which has also now been brought again to Parliament in order to build consensus and make sure we are going together while getting out the benefits of biotechnology and avoiding at all costs the side effects or any harm to the environment or human. And we hope we shall be able to also get it through. We're also reviewing the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology and the Uganda Industrial Research Institute Acts to ensure we avoid any duplication and focus them on what is crucial for the country. Cabinet in March this year approved the National Research and Innovation Program Framework. The National Research and Innovation Program Framework, or program, is aimed at encouraging creativity and supporting innovations in Uganda through promotion of research development, technology incubation, and technology commercialization activities. The program will support the implementation of innovative projects that are creating new or improved products, processes, or services designed to raise the financial value and technological competence of Ugandan outputs. This will increase private investment in local innovation ecosystem. The support offered by the program will enable local startups offer better quality products, compete favorably in the market, and improve the efficiency of utilization of local resources. Ultimately, the program will support the development of knowledge and technology for innovative solutions that will spur economic growth and employment in Uganda as a precursor to sustainable development. We are putting in place a steering committee, and very soon we shall be advertising about 3 windows. We shall offer money to people who are involved in basic research, offer money to people involved in technology development, including those in the informal sector, and then also offer money for those intending to commercialize whatever they have been able to develop. Also, one of the challenges the ministry was asked to address is the academia-industry relations. Most of our lecturers, when you go to Makerere, you find so many ideas. Lecturers have a lot of ideas, but turning those ideas into inventions, and then from inventions into viable businesses is a nightmare. You find many lecturers would just want to do research, publish, and become professors. But getting products of what they have done is very, very tough. And that has been a big challenge. You find many students with many ideas at universities, but after finishing their thesis and their courses, they are riding borders. So we said, okay, let's focus on this. So we have been able to, first of all, develop shared use science, technology, and innovation infrastructure. 1, through Uganda Industrial Research Institute, the president was able to secure for us a grant of $30 million from China to establish a manufacturing, machining, and skills training center. A machine that makes machines. You can't believe this. If you want to make a very good bolt, even in Uganda now, it's very difficult. A bolt. Basic things that are needed in manufacturing are a problem. So with this support, we have put up a big facility in Namave, about 12 buildings. And in there we are putting CNC machines, milling machines, all these computerized. And we'll be able to manufacture small parts, including spare parts for vehicles. You just have an old vehicle, you go and take it there, they take a picture, an old part, they take a picture of it, put in the computer design, produce whatever you need. This facility is going to be due for completion 2019. The second is that to support what the Minister of Education is doing, we realized we did actually a survey. How many engineers do we have per capita in Uganda? How many doctors? All those professionals, we've done that survey through council. How many master craftsmen? How many technicians? And all that. And are they industrial ready? And as a consequence, a project was formulated to establish a national science, technology, and engineering and innovation center to enhance the technological and skills base of Ugandan graduates, craftsmen, technicians, and engineers using a factory learning model. As well as we're also going to establish a technology innovation and business incubation center in Namave to provide working space and other common user facilities for scientists and innovators. Many people, when they finish universities or even college, to go and start a business, it's a nightmare. Start building, bring in equipment is a challenge. But once you have common user facilities, you have workspaces, shared boardrooms, shared exhibition areas, shared infrastructure, with mentoring and nurturing, then they just take off. So that's what we are going to establish with these particular centers, the UDI Center, and the National Science and Technology Center, and the TBIC. And we hope we shall be able to get people from various municipalities, from various districts. We bring them, and we give them opportunity to do further skills enhancement in these facilities, and mentor them, and we even group them to start companies. And then we fund them to go and implement those companies in their areas in what we call municipal innovation technology hubs, or whatever names that we shall come up with. Also, we have supported key pathfinder scientists. When the ministry was created, the president gave us a number of scientists to support and ensure they commercialize their products. One is PIBID, the Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, which has now established a pilot plant for banana flour, starch, biscuits, and other new banana-derived products, including extruded products in Ushenyi. Now, this has been having a challenge, but because they couldn't trade, they couldn't sell anywhere, it was a project. So we took time, but I'm happy finally Cabinet approved this year in March for it transition into a legal entity that can enter into a contract and sell products and enter into partnerships, which is now called BADIC, or Banana Industrial Research and Development Center. You just need to visit that place and see. A lot of capacity has been built. And now this center would be able to allow for new products of bananas to come out and then incubate the companies which will go on their own to go and start trading and making businesses. Accordingly, also, we are trying to secure land at Sanga to put an industrial technology park devoted to banana value addition. There are many products you can imagine. And Uganda is the second largest producer of bananas in the whole world, second to China, not India. But in the international market, the Ugandan bananas are not there. We hope we shall take them there. 2, Chira Motors Corporation commenced the construction of the Chira vehicle plant in Jinja, expected to go into production 2021, starting with the Kayora EVS buses. The promotion of the automotive industry in Uganda is key to position Uganda as a hub within the region for automotive value addition to tap into the growing demand of motor vehicles in the region currently at 300,000 in East Africa, and expected to increase over 630,000 motor vehicles annually. And we also know that Africa will be 2.5 billion people by 2050, and with the continental free trade area, Uganda should be able to play a big role in the automotive industry of Africa. So with our facilities at URI, able to manufacture spare parts, with our minerals able to bring lithium batteries, we shall be able to produce vehicles not simply assembled, but manufactured in Uganda. Already our scientists and engineers are in China working on the buses. We had our designs, we're using the facilities there to work on our own buses, and by the end of this year, you will be seeing buses here in Entebbe and Kampala, as we also embark on having the vehicle plant in Jinja fully operational by 2021, if the Minister of Finance does what is required. But the point I'm trying to make is that even glass, we shall make our own glass here, everything in that vehicle, except maybe later, of course the engine might come later. Other innovations that the Ministry has supported, at least the first year of Innovation Fund, it supports Makerere University, Professor Byarhanga. That time we had a huge drought, but Professor Byarhanga at Makerere University was able to develop a low-cost solar irrigation pump. And now we are looking at commercializing those Ugandan-made solar irrigation pumps that can be used in the entire country. Yeah. We are also in the process of supporting. When you go to these shops and you want juice, you can't get very good juice. Pure juice, 100% juice. You find sugars brought together with some other things. And many of others have to come from Kenya and South Africa. There was a young man who went and developed, looked at these Ugandans who locally go and make their own bananas, and they extract juice using the feet. But now because the feet harbor some animals, sometimes some of that juice you cannot be able to take it to what? To the market. So they come out with innovative ideas. They designed extraction chambers. They designed suits. So what happens is you go and get your banana, you ripen it, you put on your gloves on the very day that you are supposed to make the juice. You put on gloves, you put on as if you're going to the moon completely. They give you filtered water. You put in the banana, which is ripened. You squeeze it without any problems. And after that, this juice is taken into a septic procedure and packed. And this juice already has market in Turkey and actually in Uganda, in some of these shops. And that has also been supported by us, as well as other related products of bananas. We have also supported somebody to take vacuum sealed bananas. You know, bananas, the shelf life is so short. But they were able to demonstrate through science that you can vacuum seal banana after peeling them, and you export them. And these are now, if you go to Boston Caribbean restaurant, you'll find them there. In most of the USA and part of Asia, you'll find the Ugandan bananas. Because there are some Ugandans who really want to eat the real banana, not banana flour turned into banana. And there are various other products. Honorable Kasaija, when I was with him in China, he was able to notice Ugandan cassava, which we supported through Innovation Fund in the first year from Lira. Ugandan young people in Lira were able to make cassava starch, and they are now selling it in China. Plus various other products which I don't have time to go through. A whole range of medicinal plants. We are supporting people involved in medicinal production of medicines, including medicines to treat bilharzia and liver flukes through Omhoko or Phytoraca deocandra. Also, in the area of scientific research and innovation, we continue. We have already had projects go through the PIP, such as the establishment of national science and technology parks. These parks provide business innovation support infrastructure and various support services for stimulating and managing the flow of knowledge, research, and technology amongst universities, research and development institutions, companies, and markets. What's going to happen is that, or what's happening, like you go to USA, is what they call Silicon Valley. You find high technology industries put together, working together with universities. Lecturers work in universities, and they also go and work in industry. industry informs research in universities, and universities inform, industry also informs curriculum. This is what we want to establish in Uganda. It was the NDP 1 document. It was never implemented. In NDP 2, it was never implemented. The 5 regional science and technology parks. One science and technology park that I know actually employs 350,000 people. When you look at the NDP target of 600,000 people, 645,000 people over 5 years, just one park alone can employ 350,000 people in one area. These include many areas that I don't have time to go through that can be put in that science and technology park, including business process outsourcing, nanotechnology, and biotechnology. The minister has also planned to set up municipal innovation and technology hubs aimed at hand-holding the identified product ventures to improve quality, acquire necessary certifications, and engage in commercial production with the aim of growing Uganda's export basket and making sure we can have young people producing goods in a standard way that can qualify for international marketing. Also, the minister's
Honorable, very, very interesting.
Okay.
Try to summarize a bit, and we shall need the whole presentation on email so that we give it out.
No problem. Okay, let me try to summarize, Madam Chair. Not a new ministry, so you give it some more time. This ministry is also, we're also working with European Union and 19 countries to have some research into food and nutrition. The ministry is also currently studying a countrywide profiling, understanding of the indigenous knowledge and materials with the view of starting scientific research on indigenous knowledge and materials so as to develop Ugandan products for international markets. The countrywide profiling understanding this quarter is in the Teso sub-region. The ministry is also supporting an initiative in sericulture research and technology transfer initiative aimed at providing research and technology transfer solutions to inform investments into the sericulture enterprise. The impact of the project is long-term sustainable growth in the incomes of small-scale sericulture and apiculture farmers and job creation. And we believe if this is well supported, it can actually also help quickly to tackle poverty in some of the areas that have been mentioned in the morning. In summary, other planned initiatives include enhancing research and development in material science and nanotechnology, as well as establishing the Mineral Research Institute, as directed by the President, to be able to have an institute that can look at all possible uses of our minerals, including like alkalis to extend the battery life of solar batteries and all others. Also, research and innovation in petrochemicals, looking at, for example, how you can use the cutway to produce chemicals, to produce plastics, and actually even produce explosives, really. Adoption and diffusion of innovative waste management technologies. And you want to hear this. Also, the Ministry of Science and Technology will take Uganda to space. And just in a few years, you'll be watching this, we shall be launching our Ugandan satellite. We're already working with Japan. We actually concluded negotiations just when we went for ticket. We have also worked with the Russians, some of them actually were even here, and other countries, other countries which are involved in the International Space Station. We are starting with just Earth observations. If you have just a satellite up above, it can help with tourism, it can help with agriculture, you can know a forestry, you can help with forestry, with water resources, and we are going to have this. We are sending students to go and make our own satellites, and then they will take them to the International Space Station, and then throw it into orbit, and we start looking at Uganda. We are also discussing a possibility of establishing the National Biotechnology Center to champion advances in medical, agricultural, industrial, and environmental biotechnology, as well as catalyze the bioeconomy strategy. And also, Honorable Minister of Finance, we have to look for money and operationalize the ULI Manufacturing, Machining, and Skills Production Center, whose construction will be ending. In summary, further integration of science technology in the entire development process is of profound importance. Decision is taken for implementation of all government programs, and you hear this, all decisions must be based on sound and best scientific evidence available, and least cost, best quality technological tool plausible. Even if it means investors, we must make sure they are using the best technology that will not harm our environment. It's not simply just bringing money here. The President has on several occasions pointed out the need to have scientists, especially chemists, in all planning departments of MDAs. Indeed, I'm happy to learn that NP has recruited Professor Chiremire, a high-level chemist with 7 patents to his name, in addition to other scientists on the board and management. Because chemistry is involved in everything, even the shots you are putting on are chemistry. MOSTI will at an appropriate time and forum recommend creation of positions of scientific advisors to MDAs, as well as the position of chief government scientific advisor, as is the case in many countries, including the United Kingdom. The ministry should also be represented on the development committee of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, which vets considers projects for inclusion in the PIP for funding. Furthermore, the ministry proposes that budgets should in the future be checked for STI compliance and an appropriate certificate be issued as we do it for gender compliance. We should also be able to check for STI compliance. In summary, for Uganda to transform, we urgently need significant human resource development to ensure our young people get the requisite STI and industry-ready skills, not only for the present, but also for the future jobs, including those in the fourth industrial revolution and what is called Society 5.0, described by Japanese and the G7. 2, significant support is needed for research and innovation ecosystem, for job creation and wealth generation, including increasing innovation fund up to the pledged 500 billion by the President, support STI-related creativity and innovation and translation of R&D outputs into commercialized outcomes, establishment of STI infrastructure to provide for R&D plus incubation, as well as low-cost capital for commercialization and industrialization. With refined policy, government must come out. If we give money to a company, what equity should we take once a venture is commercialized? And finally, most finally, digital transformation of the entire country and citizenry. People in schools must handle iPads, must have small computer tablets. They must be connected to internet. You don't have to wait for fiber optic cable to reach everywhere when you now have appliances that can use 5G network. So we need digital infrastructure that will allow us to take advantage of advances in technology to help us leapfrog over the past industrial revolutions. We don't have to go through first, second, third, fourth. We just leapfrog to the fifth industrial revolution. I close my submission.
Thank you so much, Dr. Honorable Tumwesdi. Yes, but we really need that information so that the country can know what is going on in your ministry, because this has opened a lot of eyes. Thank you so much. And now I'll call upon Professor Pamela Mbabazi Kasabiti, Chairperson of National Planning Authority, to make her presentation. Join me in welcoming her.
Madam Chair, my Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, honorable ministers here with us present, members of Parliament here with us present, distinguished guests, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, Madam Chair, I was asked to explain briefly the critical challenges that undermined the attainment of NDP 1 and NDP 2 strategic objectives, and the lessons learned and how these can be addressed in NDP 3. Madam Chair, dear participants, the major challenges that prevented us from achieving our objectives in NDP 1 can be summarized as the major ones, 3 basically. And 1 was insufficient or rather limited alignment of the budget frameworks to NDP 1. The focus at the time was different between the outputs and results. And in addition, there was no sufficient alignment of the ministries, sectors, and local government activities to NDP1. In other words, the ministry's targets and results and outputs were not talking to the National Development Plan 1. And as another related factor really was to do with the fact that at the time, the country had just reverted back to planning from PEEP. And Ugandans at the time didn't really understand what national planning is all about and entails. And as such, the results were also not well articulated. And it took quite a long time to adjust from PEEP, and there was limited ownership, especially by the technocrats, in adopting to getting into national planning. But also, arguably, the political leaders at the time didn't really embrace planning. So NDP1 was essentially more of a cosmetic exercise, and most ministries and NDAs and local governments never focused on it. The other major challenge that prevented us from achieving our results in NDP1 was the fact that it was too broad and wide and not really focused. NDP1 was a very big book, approximately 200 and plus, or 2,000 and plus pages. And it was not focused at all. And it was difficult to implement from the word go. And you will agree with me, dear participants, Madam Chair, that if we don't prioritize as a country, we'll get swarmed up in the floor. And this is something different we're coming up with in NDP3. The other third factor relating to the challenges that prevented us from achieving NDP1 is the weak financing. And this largely arises from the reduced donor support at the time. Budget support during the NDP1 period went down partly because of the global financial crisis and its aftermath in Europe and America. And this affected our plan implementation. Now, when we moved to NDP2, the challenges were a little bit more. And one that I would like to emphasize is the weak implementation capacity. And my honorable minister mentioned this, the capacity to prepare projects, that is undertaking feasibility studies, remains a big challenge, even in NDP2. Sectors, ministries, and indeed local governments do not have the capacity to undertake feasibility studies. And this is why, out of the 39 core projects we had articulated well in NDP3, only 3 have been completed. That is a dismal performance. And we need to really concentrate on building our capacity as a nation in making sure that we prepare the plans that we want, rather the projects that we want to pursue. So the way we prepare, plan, implement, and raise funds for our projects needs to be critically reviewed. It's not possible for sectors at the moment and MDAs and local governments to easily assess the rate of return of one suggested project to the other, or the economic or financial benefits of one project as opposed to the other. And we need to make sure that we really, and I want to emphasize that point, build capacities for our sectors, ministries, MDAs, and local government, as my minister rightly pointed out, to undertake these feasibility studies. The second major factor that prevented us, again, in achieving our objectives in NDP2 is global and national macroeconomic challenges that have also affected our ability to achieve our objectives and, by extension, hitting our targets. For instance, the global decline in the demand for coffee, which is one of our key export earnings, has affected us negatively. The other factor is that there's been low productivity, or rather low production generally in the country, and this is because of our prolonged drought that we experienced as a country. And of course, there's also been continued poor performance of credit due to the high interest rates. These are major factors as a country that we need to critically challenge our thinking and work together towards addressing if we want to make progress in NDP3. The other factor is the weak public-private sector implementation. And this is also another major challenge that my minister really pointed out in his speech. For instance, on average, only between 150 to 200 kilometers of roads were paved per year in Uganda during the NDP2 period. If you take a country like Kenya, they've been able to, on average, pave approximately 1,500 kilometers of roads per year. Obviously, we have a lot of catching up to do if we're really going to position Uganda as a competitive destination for foreign direct investment. And the anticipated PPP role, the public-private partnership role, is yet to be realized. And this is arguably because it is not well understood. I think we have to intentionally and deliberately as a country, if it needs to send our bright young people to Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge, we have to do that. We need to really understand how PPP operates and get it working here in this country if we're really going to attract foreign direct investments. So what are the key lessons and how are these being addressed in NDP3? One, we have until now been putting much of our emphasis on investments in the social sector, and whereas this is good, we seem to have neglected the productive sectors of the economy. So we need to focus more on investing our limited resources in also uplifting our productive sector and create more wealth, which can then, again, be redistributed. We really need to focus. If you've seen the new plan, and I had a conversation with the local governments yesterday at GAPA and presented the statistics, as a country, we've tried to make some significant progress, arguably, in the social sector, but we've really performed in a mixed way with the productive sectors. I think we need to shift now and focus more on creating and strengthening the growth of our economy. So there is, the other factor is there is need to increase alignment of the budget to NDP. Aligning priorities in the plan with the budget is very crucial. This will entail clearly articulating results and ensuring that there's a clear system for monitoring and evaluation. As my minister rightly pointed out, we are introducing the programmatic approach to planning as a new addition or a new invention into the plan. And the introduction of this program approach to planning is aimed at increasing the alignment of the budget to the plan. And we're working together in the ministry to ensure that as the budget call circular is released, we also have our draft planning call circular so that we try to work together to really ensure that planning is aligned to budgeting. And as the minister noted, one of the sectors that is a low-hanging fruit is the tourism sector. Uganda is gifted by nature and with a really, really amazing population of Ugandans with varying cultures. If we can manage, and we will, to brand and market the country well, we can easily attract a swarm of tourists and change our country in a very, very short time. But we need to articulate our targets well and ensure that we implement our plan to the letter. Another key challenge is, of course, implementation, which remains a challenge in NDP2. We need to reduce the wastage and duplication in government by fast-tracking the rationalization of government departments and quickly adopt the review report being worked on by the Ministry of Public Service. We need to make sure we get value for money, and as I noted before, we need to build our capacity to implement projects. In NDP3, we want to only include core projects whose feasibility studies have been done and we can clearly ascertain or establish the internal rate of returns and their financial and economic benefits. All government departments' capacities, as I mentioned before, to plan and prepare projects must and will need to be strengthened. We also need to focus more on infrastructure or rather to increase competitiveness. Roads, rails, electricity, ICT, air transport, these need to be aligned towards strengthening our country to be more competitive. But also human capital development will be key in triggering our transformation. And Madam Chair, there is need to enhance government participation in direct investments to fill the gaps not already filled by the private sector. And again, I must stress, we need to really find the way we can make PPP work. Other countries have been able to leapfrog into becoming middle income, largely because they've got it right. So we need to follow suit. And as my minister rightly pointed out, we will need to increase the role of government in the economy by, among other things, giving tax incentives, but also strengthening UDC. So, Madam Chair, as I give the final remarks, what are some of the issues that are different in NDP3? Madam Chair, distinguished participants, based on the lessons learned and what I've just highlighted, NDP3 will try to consolidate the gains achieved so far in our economy, as highlighted by my Honourable Minister in his speech earlier this morning, and it will aim at addressing some of the challenges that I've shared with you right now. As such, our priorities will remain largely in agriculture, tourism, minerals and oil, and the abundant labour, but also increasingly, as my minister stressed, promoting a knowledge-driven economy through STI, as Honourable Roida also emphasized, will have to be key. Our focus under NDP3 will therefore be on how to exploit the existing viable natural resources in order to drive growth, and as I noted, promoting a knowledge-driven economy through strengthening SEI. For growth to happen, however, resource-led industrialization will be key for triggering increases in household income. The increased role of the state will also be key. Whereas in the previous NDPs, the private sector was assumed to drive growth. Under NDP3, the increased role of the state in the development process will be strengthened in order to exploit fully the quasi-market and the PPP approaches in development. In this case, government will seek to invest either wholly or jointly with the private sector in strategic enterprises and other investments in order to spur growth in a balanced manner across the country. Infrastructure investments, as I mentioned, will need to be targeted to specific investments. For example, industrial parks, tourism circuit roads, energy transmission to selected industrial parks and zones, but as well irrigation infrastructure for smallholder farmers. Hence, other than those projects that will be rolled over, the NDP3 will prioritize infrastructure for tapping opportunities. Madam Chair, dear distinguished participants, infrastructure maintenance will also be key in NDP3 in order to sustain the already established stock. And the balancing of social and infrastructure investments will be a priority. NDP3 will strive to create a balance between the social and productive infrastructure investments. This will purposively be done in order to address the issues of inequality and reduce the subsistence economy. Therefore, special focus on areas where poverty has reversed will be a key element in NDP3. So through regional programming, NDP3 will specifically focus on the regions of Bukedi, Karamoja, Busoga, and Teso, as my minister pointed out. And finally, Madam Chair, dear participants, articulating the key results and targets clearly will be central. NDP3 will be based on national programs and projects with clear results and targets. And these will really, we will work together. We need to break the silos and work together to ensure that we really implement our plan. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. And now I'll call upon Madam Engineer Cecilia from the Ministry of Energy. You will say the rest. And the others, I'm really going to be a little bit harsh because we want to give time to the participants so that it doesn't appear that it has been a mere lecture, though the lecture has been very, very productive. Thank you, Engineer. But introduce yourself more, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Ministers here present, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I'm Engineer Cecilia Menya, in charge of the Electrical Power Department in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. And I'm answering the question posed to the Ministry of Energy on behalf of Honorable Irene Mloni, who is currently out of the country. However, the question is twofold. There is a section on power, and then there is a section on petroleum production and exploration that will be answered by my colleague, the Director of Petroleum Exploration and Production. Esteemed delegates, I would like to mention that energy and mineral resources are prime movers of any country's economic growth and prosperity. The question I'm answering is, how does the ministry plan to address the existing power generation, transmission, and distribution challenges in order to increase access to power, both by domestic and commercial users? Besides that, I'm also supposed to talk about the plans we have to reduce power tariffs. Our priorities in the short and medium term are to increase electricity generation capacity and transmission network, to increase access to modern energy services through rural electrification and renewable energy development, to promote the efficient utilization of energy and reduction of power losses, to achieve commercial oil production, and to promote value addition to mineral resources. Under the electricity power generation segment, I would like to say that to ensure that there is adequate supply of power, government has invested heavily in this segment. As you may all recall, that 5 years ago, government embarked on the development of 2 large hydropower plants, that is Karuma and Isimba. And the 183 megawatts Isimba hydropower project was commissioned in March this year. And we are in advanced stages of development of Karuma hydropower project, which is expected for commissioning at the end of this year. We have other generation projects that we are implementing. We have 50 megawatts from cogeneration using bagasse that are being developed by private companies who are dealing in sugar production. We have 150 megawatts being developed by private sector from small hydro power sites. We have 83 megawatts being developed on the Agago River in northern Uganda. And we have about 60 megawatts being generated from solar. Under planning, we are looking at various hydropower sites for development. We are looking at Ayago, 800 megawatts, Oriang, 400 megawatts, Kiba, 300 megawatts, and we are also looking at developing mini grids in areas that we see will not be connected to the national grid in the next 5 years. And we are looking at powering these mini grids using solar and wind hybrids where wind is available. That is in the Karamoja region. While the other regions we are looking at solar and thermal hybrids. Right now, our generation capacity stands at 1,182 megawatts, and come end of this year and early next year, this will be slightly over 2,000 megawatts. You can see that right now we have demand chasing after the supply, and in my opinion, this could be a better option, having power available. We are bound to see a lot of industries mushrooming, and also we are bound to interest large energy-intensive industries like steel and cement, and also those that are already existing, we shall see them increase on their production. Under the transmission, segment. With our generation capacity boosted, we are focusing on boosting the demand. However, we cannot have this if our transmission and distribution networks are not adequate. So this is actually our major focus right now, to have a robust network that spreads over the country, and also to have transmission lines being constructed to industrial parks and economic zones. In order to increase the transmission infrastructure, government continues, and it has planned to undertake the construction of several transmission lines. We are looking at lines that to evacuate power from the generation plants that are in progress. We are looking at lines to interconnect with our neighbors, Kenya, Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Southern Sudan. The lines to Kenya and Rwanda are in advanced stages. Those ones for DRC, Tanzania, and Southern Sudan, they are under planning, but we are working together in the region. We are also looking at lines to industrial parks. Right now, we have 25 industrial parks demarcated, so we have, as a ministry, we have to ensure that there is power extended to these industrial parks, to be able to facilitate the investors. And we are also looking at transmission lines at a national level. We are looking at extending the backbone transmission network to all the regions of the country. Honorable Chair, I would like to mention that under the transmission segment, we've had challenges, and during the implementation of our projects, to mention, we have challenges with the acquisition of land, and also vandalism of late has become a big issue. Recently, we had about 60 towers come down along the Karuma-Kawanda segment of the evacuation lines. So really vandalism is becoming a problem, but right now we are working together with the security agencies and different stakeholders to ensure that this is stopped, at least or reduced. We are also reviewing the Electricity Act to put in place stringent measures to be able to punish the culprits once they are gotten. Under the distribution subsector, we are working on the distribution network and rural electrification based on the Rural Electrification Strategy and Plan 2013 to 2022. The strategy aims at increasing the electrification rate from the current 26% by 2022, and this translates to 1,415 new connections on the grid and off-grid, and also aims at positioning the country to achieve the government vision of universal access by 2040. We are going to continue implementing this strategy in the medium term in regards to the distribution. This strategy considers various options. It looks at extending the grid. It looks at promoting the uptake of solar energy, mainly the solar home systems. But like I mentioned, for those areas very far away from the grid, we are looking at mini grids. We are promoting mini grids to be powered by solar and thermal hybrids. To increase access, government is implementing various programs. In August 2018, government launched the Electricity Connection Policy 2018 that aims at increasing the number of domestic and commercial consumers to the national grid from the current level of 27% to 60% by 2027. The consumers will need to have their premises wired and pay the inspection fee, while government will provide the necessary infrastructure. Government, through the Rural Electrification Agency, has also embarked on a program to fast-track rural electrification through the electrification of sub-counties, all the sub-counties in the country. We are also, like I mentioned, we also have off-grid programs looking at increasing the use of solar home systems and mini grids. We really need to have these three segments of power delivery, that is generation, transmission, and distribution, being implemented concurrently. Because when you look at generation, the planning period for generation usually is very long. To have the large hydro power projects get constructed, it can take about from 5 to over 10 years. So much as we have generation right now boosted, we still need to continue planning such that in about 5 years, we can still have other generation projects, large, commence. In regards to plans to reduce tariff, government has put in place a strategy to reduce tariff to affordable levels for all consumer categories. So far, the tariff for Bujagali hydropower project has been reduced from 10.6 to 7.91 US cents, running from 2018 to 2032. This tariff reduction of about 15% has been applied to the extra large industries that are now paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour during the off hours. In addition, we are implementing other measures like increasing the demand. And to increase the demand, we are looking at various ways, different ways. One of them being to accelerate connections by making new connections affordable for the rural community, and that is in regards to the already policy I've mentioned, that is the electricity connection policy. Then the other measure to increase on demand, we are looking at development of industrial parks. As a ministry, we have to ensure that power is there, because if you have power, then you interest a number of industries to come and set up in these parks that have already been demarcated. Already we have 4 industrial parks that are at construction stage, especially to increase the industrial demand by 200 megawatts in the short term and 500 megawatts in the medium term. And we have about 5 that are in advanced stages of planning. The other measure is to attract new large energy intensive industries, such as the Sukuru Hills phosphate industry and expansion of already existing steel and cement industry production capacity. To increase on the demand also, we are looking at management of the demand side and energy efficiency measures. We do promote energy efficiency measures in the ministry, and we are also promoting the time of use electricity pricing signal for large industry consumers, where tariffs of peak consumption are currently half those at peak. So we are encouraging them to use that time to produce. We are also looking at increasing efficiency in the electricity supply industry through loss reduction and energy efficiency measures. That is the end of my presentation, but I would call on my colleague to present on petroleum. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. Is that Mr. Madinga?
Yes, Madam.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Honourable Ministers present, honourable Members of Parliament, Ambassadors, fellow participants. I'm called Hane Malinga, Acting Director of Petroleum. We had the choice for either me to sit there or my colleague, but since the Minister is an engineer and lady, we agreed that she should sit there. So having said that, on oil and gas, the question was, furthermore, it was initially proposed that Uganda would start producing and exporting petroleum products by year 2020. Prior to that, government embarked on construction of relevant support infrastructure, such as Hoima Airport, oil roads, etc. What is our level of readiness in as far as this subject is concerned? This is a loaded question, but I'll try to give you the levels, and I think at the end of the day, we're able to tell what levels. I'll not give you the exact percentage, but we'll be able. In order to answer this, I just want to give you some bit of background. In 2006, Uganda announced commercial discovery of oil and gas. Later, we put in place the oil and gas policy, 2008. That policy had many recommendations. Among them was to put a new legal, regulatory, and institutional framework. In 2012, we had a farm down where Heritage sold its interest to Talo, and later Talo farmed down by bringing Sinok and Total. Between 2012 and 2014, as partners, that is government and joint venture partners, we agreed on a commercialization plan. This plan was to enable government realize production at a certain time. We held different negotiations, different discussions, and at the end of the day, we agreed on a certain roadmap. One of the roadmaps was, issuance of production licenses. So in 2016, we issued 8 production licenses. Now with the commercialization plan, we agreed to have some key milestones, and there were 4. One was, with the production licenses in place,